I feel like I've seen this episode somewhere, maybe in like their first season?
They are treading old ground a little bit. Just a little. I mean, I'm always up for reaffirming Cyborg's humanity, but I actually think there are a lot more problems with how they did it in this episode than how they did it in the one with, in the previous one. I actually have a lot of things to say about that, so I won't start in on that till after the summary, but I have a lot of problems with how they did this episode, basically. Well, no, I have one problem, it's just one that I have a lot of notes about.
So this is only human. In this episode, while everyone is training, Cyborg is trying to see how much he can lift.
He does even lift, bro.
When he reaches his built-in limit, with convenient percentage on his arm, he has to give up on it. This annoys him, and when Robin tries to go after him, he explains that his muscles are mechanical, so he can't go past his own limits anymore. While playing games, everyone tries and fails to cheer up Cyborg. It almost seems like after that, though, beating someone at the game would help, but suddenly he comes to challenge Cyborg in real life. His name is Atlas, and he is a robot who feels he's superior to everyone and everything else. He is joined by his human mechanic, who's rooting for him, and he seems to prove that he's superior by basically defeating the Teen Titans and capturing them all except Cyborg. He decides they're his trophies now, and tells Cyborg if he wants them back, he'll have to face him one-on-one. And they end up fighting one-on-one, no weapons, in an abandoned outdoor stadium. And at first it seems like an even fight, but eventually Cyborg reaches his limits and loses. Atlas decides to keep the Titans after that. Because of this, Cyborg walks around the city, feeling defeated by his own robotic limits. But in what I can only describe as a Gollum-y scene. He ends up talking to his reflection to convince himself that he can win because of his human half. During all this, Robin has repeatedly been trying to get his mechanic to realize that Atlas undeservedly treats him like garbage. Eventually, he starts to turn on Atlas, but when Atlas throws him around, Cyborg appears and challenges him to a rematch. When the rematch starts, Atlas decides relatively quickly to play dirty and tries to cheat with his weapons, but the mechanic refuses to help him and frees the Titans, who prevent Atlas from leaving, so that they can have their one-on-one rematch. During this match, it seems very similar to before. However, eventually through, I guess, willpower, Cyborg is able to go past his 100% limits and defeat Atlas. Throwing him underground, he is just left there by everyone defeated. And that's basically the episode.
I will say I find it pretty funny that the villain for this episode is just like an asshole online gamer who can't take a loss.
That was the best part.
Like, it goes on about being the greatest robot ever, and he just spends his time online gaming and being an asshole to people.
And then he came to the Tides Tower because he was offended at the idea of losing in this video game.
Just, oh, dude, he has some problems.
I love how he just acts so serious. Like, he's just so serious. Like, he takes all this seriously, even when he plays against, what's his name, from West Gotham. I've proven I'm superior to you.
Yeah, just, oh, dude.
This is hilarious. I wish more villains would do this. Great.
That was really, really funny. But yeah, I did have a problem with this episode, and it seeded itself pretty early on. As you described at the beginning, Cyborg's lifting increasing amounts of weight, and he gets to a point where he can't lift anymore, and he asks his friends to, shut down the device because he's worried he's going to get crushed, and they just go, "No man, you can do it, we believe in you." And he nearly gets crushed as a result, because he's not saying that, I just don't think I can do it. He's saying, no, I literally can't carry anymore. And that was a lot of weight he was lifting. And then, so at this point I was like, is this episode going to go in a you really should have your friends' backs when they ask for help direction? Or is it going to go in a Cyborg just needs to push himself a little hot? Yeah, it went in that direction. And I have, like I said, I'm so in for any episode that's about reaffirming Cyborg's humanity. I know it's a little repetitive, but it's a big thing for him. And in certain respects, I think this episode handled it very well, making a bigger point of his athletic background. Like, before he had his robot parts, he was an athlete. He was, he played sports. His physicality was very important to him. So having a lot of that replaced by robot parts that, aren't, that sometimes he doesn't always feel are his body anymore, is, it'd be a blow to anybody to be turned into a robot. without agreeing to it, which I don't think there's any version of Cyborg's backstory I've seen where he wanted to be turned into a robot. It just kind of happened because of various near-fatal events. So, it would be a big blow to him. So I like that they tied that in, but I have a bit of a problem with the narrative kind of suggesting that he was wrong to ask for help at the beginning, basically. Because the thing is, as he would know as an athlete, in real athletic training, you're trying to push your limits, you're trying to expand what you can do, but pushing yourself too far over your limits, you can seriously hurt yourself. You need to know what your limits are, you need to be aware of when you're going too far. Otherwise, even just normal, regular athletic training that doesn't involve lifting what looks like, the weight of a small building, you can still really, really hurt yourself if you overdo it. So, I kind of have a problem with him asking for help and his friends basically just telling him to sack up instead of giving him help. And then the episode never really bearing that out. Because it's also different training in a gym versus, being in an adrenaline-fueled scenario like fighting for your life. Like, when you're fighting to save your life and those are your friends, you've also got adrenaline pumping you up. And it's not that overdoing it won't still hurt you, it's just that you're not going to feel it until after the life-threatening danger is over. Also, there's the fact that the relationship between Atlas and Mechanic is a bit... I do like that Robin basically talks Mechanic into getting out of an abusive relationship. I'm so big on episodes where they just, talk to villains and convince them to do better things with their life. And I think it was hilarious the bit where Atlas decides to just go change his own weapon and he doesn't know which one it is because he's just used to yelling at Mechanic to do things for him. So he doesn't know how to find his own thing. But the episode was very heavy on this do stuff for yourself instead of asking for help message. And it was very right on encouraging Mechanic not to help Atlas when Atlas doesn't respect him, but it then doesn't balance them out by showing it's good for Cyborg to work with his team because they all respect each other. Especially because it's a team-based show rather than an individual character-based show, it feels a bit odd that this episode seems to be actively working against teamwork, basically.
True.
It's just pushing Cyborg to sack up and fight alone, rather than saying when you have limits, it's okay to ask your friends for backup, that's why you have friends, that's why you have a team.
Yeah.
To cover each other's limits, to cover each other's weaknesses.
I'm honestly not surprised they did an episode like this, because this was about the peak years of, like, DBZ inspired shonen stuff, so, which is all about, fighting to become even more powerful than your own limits.
Yeah. Insert 9,000 base joke here.
Yes. Numbers have no meaning.
Basically, yeah, push it over 100% is the kind of thing, sports people come out with all the time. But, when he's talking about, he does talk about earlier, when it comes to his robot parts, he kind of has hard numbers to worry about.
Yeah. It's a sort of goofy, this is impossible, but going beyond the impossible sort of strength of sort of thing that, like, everything was doing at the time. And because it's anime inspired, it decided to do that too. Yep,
turn it up to 11 instead of just making 10 louder.
Yes.
Yeah, so I do have problems with how that played out, but I do like that they tied in Cyborg's athletic background a bit more this time with his identity issues.
Yeah.
I also just, in a background way, adored every second of Starfire and Raven in this episode. Like,
yes.
Inform that large mass of metal who is the boss.
Yes.
And later Starfire cheering him on, going, kick the butt! And just caterwauling a traditional Tamarinian folk song at him before suggesting the addition of, like, space bagpipes or whatever that was.
Space bagpipes.
Yeah. And then, like, on the opposite end of the cheer spectrum, we've got Raven's idea of, cheerleading a friend is, go Cyborg? And later on, when they're all in prison and just like, let us out! And Raven's just like, do we get bathroom breaks? Which is a very important question.
Yes.
Also, she makes a great background face at one point when Beast Boy refers to her as Grumpy. She has this amazing rage face, just tiny in the background.
Yeah. I think my favorite part, though, might have been when Raven tries to cheer him up, and it's like, he metaphorically shoots her down which is shown by her not even saying anything. It just immediately, it just goes
Yep.
to just the firing like cannons into the sky.
Immediately
And
shot.
she's in a plane. It's just, yes.
They went a little overboard on visually representing her getting shot down, but yeah, just the immediacy of it.
And it's funny because she barely even tried. She didn't say anything.
No.
And at the end, little chibi Raven in a parachute fall.
She tried. I kind of cheered for Robin at the end of that bit when he's like, maybe he just needs some time alone. I'm like, yes, you're getting in the way of the dude's video games when he's mad at you all. Just let him play his video games, man.
Yes.
At least until his shitty online gamer enemy turns up.
Yeah, stop Steven Universe in it and desperately trying to help everyone all the time.
Well, I mean, yeah, again, the balance of this episode is weird because they don't want to help him when he asks for help. And then when he blatantly needs to just be left alone, they're getting all up in his face. And it's just kind of like...
Yes.
Basically, there was some really bad communication between teammates in this episode. Verbally straight up asking for help, they're ignoring. And then they're also ignoring very blatant non-verbal cues that well, again, he tells them to leave him alone, and it takes ages for them to get it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, communication is a very big thing for me, so it kind of bugs me that the episode's very low on it, aside from, Robin counselling Mechanic through his relationship difficulties. But other than that, communication is very poor in this episode, and it's in a way where it's obviously not something that's being focused on. It's not that the episode isn't about communication anyway, it's badly represented in this episode, which makes me feel the writers don't feel like it's important. Which, like I said, again, it's a team-based show. You're meant to have 5 characters working together as a team, and if they're not communicating, I feel like it's dragging us back to early season 1 when they're getting into terrible fights for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. Something weird I noticed is that all the video game grunts sounded like Cyborg. That was weird.
I didn't notice, I just kind of assumed that, like, the voice at Cyborg's voice actor was the one recording all those, too.
It's just like, why? That's weird. Did he make the game himself? Is he secretly a video game developer and no one knows?
I mean, maybe.
It's a secret identity.
Guess gotta have something to do with this downtime.
So, did you notice that the Mechanic was voiced by John DiMaggio?
I thought it sounded familiar. Oh, how did I not notice that was John DiMaggio, honestly?
John DiMaggio serving
I was kind of distracted because the version of this episode I was watching, the audio got progressively more out of sync with the video, and nothing I could do.
That's why I switched to a different version.
Yeah. Oh.
As soon as I saw that was happening.
It was so distracting and painful. So it distracted me from a good part of this episode. But yeah, now that I think about it, it's so fucking obviously John DiMaggio. What the hell?
Yeah, and he's serving a robot. How ironic.
But this is how I can't recognize John DiMaggio. This is how bad. If a day comes when I don't recognize Gilbert Gottfried, just end me.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if this guy created Atlas or something, because he's knows everything and knows more than Atlas does.
I think Mechanic kind of implied that Atlas had beat him in a fight before. Possibly they ended up fighting over video games, then Atlas beat him in real life, and now he just kind of hangs around.
Yeah. Probably the best scene was when he was talking to his reflection. One would focus on the robot side, one would focus on the human side.
See, that was a good way of
clever.
laying those shots out to show, Cyborg's conflict about who he is and what he is.
Yes.
I do feel like this is something that really needs to be explored in length at some point. If there's a backstory episode where we actually get explained exactly when and how in this continuity he got robot parts. They keep hinting at it, but I'm hoping they explore it in full at some point. I say this like there's new episodes upcoming and the show hasn't been finished for years, but I'm hoping it's out there in the stuff I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. By the way, I loved Beast Boy's training at the beginning with the treadmill.
Yes, I loved him turning into different animals, yeah.
Yes, he turned into progressively faster animals.
That was great.
And I loved that during the first Atlas fight, his attack is basically just to turn into a whale and crush him.
Yeah, whale body slams are the best kind of body slams. Although he was a surprisingly small whale. Humpbacks are usually a lot bigger than that. Even baby humpbacks are bigger than that, I think. I'm mildly distracted because I decided to look up some of John DiMaggio's voice roles, because I know he's done a shit ton, and he has. And he's been a lot of really good villains. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Mechanic is like a massive step down for him when he's been like King Shark, Killer Croc, Deathstroke, Lex Luthor, and, you know, the Joker.
Yeah. Well, who hasn't been the Joker at this point?
At least the voice actors for the Joker don't make a big deal about doing weird shit. In fact, Mark Hamill makes a pretty big deal out of not doing weird shit to be the Joker. He's just like, I just turn up, voice him, and leave. No used condoms sent to any of his co-workers there. I was actually surprised by how good John DiMaggio was as the Joker in Under the Red Hood, because I remember reading the voice credits for that and going, really? And then you watch the first scene where he murders Jason Todd, and you're like, wow, really? Okay, yeah. He can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, John DiMaggio is one of those people who you think of for, like, a couple of roles, but then he's in, like, every other thing ever.
I'd say, yeah, I mean, I'm going down this list, and I know quite a lot of these roles. I was like, yeah, I knew he'd do a lot of things, but he has done a shit ton of things. Wow.
Yes, he has.
I mean, including, from the looks of it, every single villain in Batman the Brave and the Bold. Which, actually, I haven't seen.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
He just has a super long list of villains for Brave and the Bold. Wow. Yeah, it just looks like he's been in... even when you thought you knew he'd done a lot of roles, he's still done a lot of roles.
Yeah.
My big rant aside, I don't have a lot more to say about this either.
No. This was the season 2 Cyborg episode. which was somewhat different from the season 1 Cyborg episode.
In some ways better, in some ways a problem.
Yeah.
Here's hoping the season 3 Cyborg episode steps it up.
Yeah, the season 3 Cyborg episode. You don't know how funny that is yet.